Good evening, everybody. A little bit later than usual. It's 11 o'clock London time. I had to make a rearrangement of times because my two guests today are from the state of Michigan, and their demands of work meant that we had to put it back at this time. I'm very, very warm welcome to two guys from Mirrorless Minutes. It's Jamie McDonald and Mike Bowening. Sorry, Mike.
Oh, that's okay. Whatever way works.
So, good evening to both of you, and welcome to Live and Uncut.
Thanks for having us.
Paul. Yeah.
This is really great because you guys have got a great show started up, and how many shows have you done? This is my 39th. How are you doing?
We've got a ways to go to catch up to you. I think our next one's going to be 14.
Right.
We've got a few interview episodes that are kind of interspersed in there, but
yeah,
we're still new. We're still.
Well, the one thing that when I started this project of mine, I spoke to Martin Bailey, who, as you probably know, is based out in Tokyo, and I came across this idea of starting an interview-based show, and I said, "What do you think, Martin?" So he said, "Go for it." He said, "But one thing, keep at it, stick at it, because you'll have your down times and you'll have your great times." And I've had both. I've had people not turn up on the day of the interview, doing their gardening and all sorts of stuff. So just had to go online and apologies, no show today. We'll work something out another time. So, but no. So there's my advice from Martin to you: stick at it, go for it, take the downs and take the ups. It's a great hobby to have.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get stuck in. Let's talk about what we love, photography. We're going to get to Mirrorless Minutes at the later stage of the show. I always ask this: how did you guys get started in photography? So I've got to be careful here now. Mike, I've never done two interviews before. So Mike, how did you get started in photography?
I think it's probably more of a family thing. I've got an uncle that's probably been a photographer 40+ years. And I've always hung around him, kept it going, and probably the last 5 years, though, is the real serious part of it that I've been doing. But, in between there, you have kids, you have family, and you put this stuff aside, and when they go off to college, you got some extra time.
This is true.
I got to get back into that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's where the last 5 years have gone. And but I've definitely always loved it, and just the creation side of it is amazing to me. And working obviously in the past with film was always amazing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because you look about my sort of age as well. So basically, you started off in the film photography.
Yeah, definitely. And being uncle had the business, so you could he had a real dark room. You didn't have to make your kitchen into your dark room.
What was your first camera you had?
Probably anything. I don't think I ever actually owned a camera until I started getting into digital, because I was always just using my uncle's cameras. Right. And actually, he had some Olympus. He had some old Mamayas that we would shoot around with, and for the film. But I can remember I was just talking to somebody the other day. It sounds like old, but it was digital. It was remember the Sony Mavica with the floppy disk that would go in the side of the first digital that shot 1.3 megapixels, I think.
Wow.
I remember trying to shoot my kids when they were young, trying to shoot their sports with a Sony Mavic. A big floppy disk would hold like 14 pictures. You had to take them out and keep changing them and that.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are fun times.
Yeah, that's right. So that's interesting. So you can basically were borrowing cameras till basically just a short time ago.
Yeah, when it's in your family, and then obviously since digital, I've had everything, and I shot Nikon really for years. And when the OMD EM5 came out, 2012, am I right, Jamie?
Yeah.
It's close to that, if it isn't. And that when I got that, that darn thing, that just changed everything in my life.
Yeah, that's right.
You could probably go back to my wife; she'd say the same thing.
We'll come to mirrorless mirrorless cameras in a minute. So, Jamie, it's the same question to you. How did you get into photography, and what was your first camera?
So my roots don't go back quite as far as you guys. Unfortunately,
thank you.
I don't have a film background. It's funny though, because I feel like I missed out on something by not having a film beginning. And but my first camera was purchased. Typical dad going on vacation with his family and wanted to get a good camera to take. So I figured I need one of those fancy cameras that the lenses change on, in order to get good photos. So I just ended up picking up an Olympus E500 DSLR, and that was in 2007. And I just, like I said, purchased it because I wanted something to capture the family vacation on. And I've always had an art background, and after getting out of school and just kind of getting into the workforce and starting a family, I kind of fell away from my art background. And after I started taking photos, I thought, man, you know, this is a whole nother art form. So I fell madly in love with a different art form at that point.
Yeah. So basically then an Olympus user right from word go.
From day one, digital and Olympus. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's great. I must be honest, when I was a Nikon user with film camera, my very first camera was the Zenit E. And then I had a business trip out in Kuwait for a couple of years. Blimey, that was back at about 1980, something like that. And the friend I was working with, he went out and bought the Olympus. Was it the OM1? The first, the OM1. And I must be honest, I looked at my Zenit and his Olympus, and I thought, well, that's a tasty camera he's got there. But I didn't get it. I was a bit short of money out there at the time, but I ended up getting the Nikon EM, and I built up through Nikon from there, FM2, FE2, and so on and so forth. And then, like Mike, went off the boil with regards to photography, wife, kids, all sorts of things sort of arrive on the scene. And then got into digital, and I nearly bought the Olympus. One that you just mentioned there, Jamie, the
E500.
The E500. I nearly bought that, but it was the menu on the back which I didn't like. As soon as I picked up the Nikon E50, I was away, and stuck with Nikon until recently, where I sold all my Nikon gear and got into the light stuff, you know, the mirrorless. So that's interesting, still a little difference we got there, and it just goes to show you, doesn't it, Mike, where we started off with the old school with the film, doing your. I used to do Kodachromes and print the Cedachromes in my dark room was the bathroom, and we had great fun doing that. But
my mom never would let me put one in. I begged her.
No,
you know, let me use our bathroom for a dark room. Didn't work.
Didn't work. Shame on that lady. Shame on that lady.
That's okay.
So basically, we've established your camera equipment. When did you're both street photographers? When did street photography grab you and sort of say, this is the genre that I want to go with? You take this question, Jamie.
Actually, I'll hand it off to Mike. He's more of the street photographer than me.
Oh, right, okay.
That's a newer thing for me. Since meeting Mike, it's kind of been one of those things I've kind of gravitated towards. But Mike he's the street guy in this group. So.
Okay. All right then. So you're more of a landscape photographer, Jamie?
You know, I'm one of those people that is hard to classify. If we do an image share a little bit later, you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay. I run the gamut of everything.
Take everything and anything.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nothing wrong with that. So then, Mike, street photography, because you're a fellow apprentice in the Arcanum.
Right. And I would say I think it evolved. It probably evolved over the last 18 months, actually. I had shot. You know, I said I was serious for the last 5 years. I've been shooting sports for colleges and basketball and baseball, soccer, different things like that for side jobs. You know, I've done headshots, and I've just been hitting, trying to think of what is it. Then I did. Also, living in Detroit gives me a great opportunity for urban exploring, abandoned buildings. We have a couple of those, if you know anything about Detroit. Slowly going away, though, I will tell you, which is good and bad. But you know, I think that urban feel, and that's really what Detroit is about, is a very, very urban feel to it, more grit, you know, and that it just sort of evolved. And then I started obviously following Valerie. Actually did a workshop with Valerie in Chicago, and you know, I said to myself, I remember coming back, I said that's enough sports. I think I'll probably do my last couple games this next couple weeks here, and I'll do it if somebody wants me to, a family member. But other than that, I'm not going to be chasing that. And you know, then of course with the Arcanum, it's been a fantastic experience, and meeting guys like you, Paul, and then you know, I mean, just looking at that map, I love looking at that map. That did Mark make the map up in the Arcanum?
Yeah, Mark Reese, from Calgary.
Yeah, Mark Reese. Yeah, where we all are, and Jamie, I haven't ever showed you, but it's just all over the earth.
I know, it's amazing, isn't it?
Where every person is, and it really makes you respect what's going on out there, and listen to different ways you guys go after things. And I just love I think the movement in the street, and it's never the same. Never ever the same.
This is true. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. That's the one thing about street photography. Don't get me wrong. No sunset is the same as the sunset the night before. We know that. Street photography, street activity. There is always something different taking place just around the corner on the same day. And I think that's the reason why I got into street photography. Added to that, my job allows me to go to a number of European cities through the year, and I normally just get a free day or day and a half to walk about, and that's the best thing, to go around with your camera and just take the city in, as regards to wherever it is.
That's exactly where my job. Yeah, my job's taking me all the time, traveling all year, and certainly, at least if you don't have an extra day, at least if I don't, I've got a night.
Yeah, exactly.
That always works well too.
Yeah, it does. No, that's
that's just one more thing. That's probably why I think Jamie and I sort of gravitate to each other. Is now I can get all my landscape fill in with Jamie for sure, and then learn the stuff. Because believe me, I love a sunset as much as the next guy. I mean, I'm always pulling over, going, I wish I could take this sunset right now, but I'm on a plane or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But and with Jamie, he knows the places, so it's good. We can bounce off each other that way, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good little mixture that you got here. So let's talk to Jamie about his landscape photography. I don't know much about the area that you live in, Jamie. So, what's the opportunities that you got to do your landscape work?
Well, so in Michigan, we've got quite a bit of variety of landscape here. There are a lot of farming communities, that offer rolling countrysides, a lot of woodland. Michigan is bordered by massive freshwater lakes. We've got a large proportion of the world's fresh water is, bordering our state. So everything from scenic beaches, we have big, huge areas of sand dunes. There are all kinds of things in Michigan, but I don't focus 100% on landscape. I like to tell people that what I do is I like to just look at the world around me and just find those things that everybody drives by, everybody walks by, nobody pays attention to, that are happening everywhere around them. And I just try to pick those moments out and capture those. So that's why if you look at my body of work, it's landscape, it's urban exploration, it's candid portraiture, it could be architectural, a lot of lately, and I go through these phases too, where I'll be on a weather kick, so some of my scenes might be just crazy weather with wild clouds and what have you, and then other times lately, after meeting Mike, I've been exploring Detroit a lot and getting the opportunity to explore some interesting locations in Detroit and capture that. So I just like to capture everything. For me, life is short and it's beautiful and it's full of variety, and I just want to absorb as much of it as I can and then share it with people too.
So you've hit the nail there. Basically, with variety is the word, isn't it? Variety of your work, of your photography. Yeah,
right.
Okay, with that. So let's talk about with your camera and your settings. I'm holding back on the type of camera you guys are now using, just for the moment. But generally, because I want to ask Mike this particular question, your settings on your camera when you're going out doing your street photography, Mike. Could you just brief me through what
definitely.
you set up?
I'll tell you, I do two types. I'm either going to shoot an aperture priority if I feel pretty confident that things are going to stay where I set them. If I've got a very, I would say a very sunny day and maybe tall buildings like a Chicago, where I'm going to have light, dark, I'm going to use the program mode.
Yeah.
Like I said, I shot Nikon for a good probably 5-6 years having Nikons and serious after, and since Olympus, I never would touch that program mode in a Nikon.
No,
but whatever Olympus does, the secret sauce, whatever they put into it, that thing does its job. And what's nice is it's just like anything else. That thing was made for that, so why not let it do its work? And in the program mode, I'll throw on auto ISO. put it in program mode, and let her rip from there.
You're good to go.
Yeah, I'm good to go. I'm 17 millimeter lens, and I would say the last couple of times I've been out when I'm traveling, of course, I'll carry it in a bag or whatever, my camera, but I'm not even bringing a bag out. I'll throw an extra couple batteries, of course, in my pocket, maybe a lens cloth, and just strap the camera on my neck and go.
Yeah. It's interesting you mentioned about this program mode, because I don't know if you saw last week I was talking to Thomas Lutard, the photographer. Yeah. And wow, 6 years he's only been doing street photography. The guy's basically running. It's amazing. But I was interested, what are you going to do? What's your settings on your camera? And I honestly thought he was either going to say aperture setting, priority, or he was going to say my preferred is ISO, automatic ISO, and I just jockey the shutter speed and aperture according to what I want, what the effect I want. But no, program mode. Boom. Put the camera straight in a program, and away he goes. And he's using the same as you guys, the Olympus OMD. I think he's EM5 or maybe have the EM10. I'm not sure.
But I think he's using the 10 right now.
I think he is using the 10. Yeah. And I thought, crikey, it's amazing, isn't it? When you actually get involved with photography, and I'm sure you've seen this before in workshops. The majority of guys that are going to teach you will turn around and say, right, what are you shooting with? I'm in program mode. Right, we'll get you out of program. We'll get you in the manual. Everyone wants to put you in the manual. Now, that's going to suit the landscape photographers. But as Mike will say and agree with me, when you're doing street and things are just moving, you can't make all those adjustments so quickly. Yeah. So I next time I'm going out, I'm going to switch my Fuji to program mode and see how I go. It should be some fun. How about yourself, Jamie? What's the general settings you put on your camera when you're doing your work?
In all honesty, because I'm covering a wide range of things, a lot of my shooting is done during my commute to and from work. I do a lot, take advantage of that downtime, I guess you'd say. Sure. So I'm pretty much an aperture priority, and I have auto ISO capped at 6400. So what I'll do is, depending on what I'm going to shoot, I'll play with my aperture to control depth of field. And then to work with exposure, sometimes I might meter using the auto exposure lock. I'll custom meter off of certain areas in the scene. But if it's like a trickier landscape where it's real dynamic, then it's probably manual mode. And that's kind of where I work. It's pretty simple for me. I let it's like Mike said, the cameras are smart enough now to where I trust
they're so smart
what's going on.
Yeah, the only thing we've got to make sure about is getting the composition right, isn't it?
Exactly.
Using our eye. So let's talk about this Olympus then.
So the OMD EM5 Mark II, that one?
Yeah, we'll talk about that one in a minute. I was just going to say, before we go any further, I must say my friend Mike Rommel uses, who used to be in our cohort, in actual fact.
Was it? Okay.
Mike, before you came on board, he had business commitments, and he's just switched from Canon. He's a wedding photographer at the weekends. He's just switched from Canon and has gone full Olympus OMDs. And I looked at it a couple of weeks ago, and I must say, it is a neat camera. There's no doubt about it. The neatness, the lightness, the smallness, if you want to call it that word. So, come on then. EM5 Mark II. Jamie, tell us all about it. It's the latest one on the block.
Yeah. So it's basically, just like the name would make it sound like, it's the Mark II revision of the EM5, which was Olympus's first introduction into the whole mirrorless camera with the form factor that resembles a DSLR, with an integrated electronic viewfinder. Some of the updates that come with this new camera are you've got the option of an electronic shutter, which allows you to do a completely silent shutter. Yep. And when you're in that silent shutter, you also have the option to shoot at 11 frames per second, which is kind of cool if you're capturing some fast action. But I think one of the things that seems to be getting the most attention is it's a 16 megapixel sensor that's capable of outputting a 40 megapixel image.
Yeah,
and that uses, and it's pretty cool, So Olympus is pretty well known for their in-body image stabilization.
Yeah.
And you can think about it as the sensor's kind of floating on this little electromagnetic cloud, and what the 40 megapixels, the way it's derived is the sensor, since it's floating, they can rotate the sensor around, and what happens is it's going to take 8 individual photos and merge them. And I know before the show you kind of alluded to sort of like an HDR type scenario. What it's going to do is it's going to take the sensor and it's going to rotate it over each one of the photo sites, you know, the red, green, and blue sensor sites,
Right.
and basically it takes like a full, you know, resolution shot from each one of those individual sections of the sensor and then merges them all together. It's a little bit more advanced than I'm capable of probably explaining, and I know that there's probably a white paper on it out there that I could find for you. But basically, you know, it's a technology that I think Hasselblad might have introduced a while back.
I think they did.
Done some reading on that, and it's crazy. It's pretty incredible. You know, the caveat with that is that you need to have a very stationary subject because the sensor is navigating around. We're talking in microns in order to do the overlap from sensor sites. So product photographers, things like that, I mean, it's just incredible. Or what I'm looking forward to using it for, again, because I'm one of those people that shoots everything, I want to use it for macro photography. I enjoy shooting the crazy little insects and spiders, and the ability to do a 40 megapixel super highly detailed image in macro to me is just going to open up the doors for a lot of really cool stuff.
Yeah,
sounds like an interior.
It does, doesn't it? Before we go any further on this camera, because this is the big talking about it. Because I was watching the guys from Calgary. They do their review on the camera, and they were talking about putting on a tripod and stuff like that. How does this sensor compare with the? Is it 40 megapixels sensor which is in the Canon, or is it a 50? I can't remember now. Now,
I think Canon's new one's 50 megapixel, yeah.
It's 50 megapixel full frame, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah, so that's a total different scenario which we're talking about. We're not talking about layers of the way that the Olympus is going about it.
Right.
Yeah, I just wanted to establish that.
Yep.
What's the other tricks that it's got that is new from the old EM5?
New hardware features. It's got a fully articulating swiveling screen, which is kind of a fun feature. I know, again, for people who like to compose without, you know, lying down on the ground, you've got the ability to swivel the screen around, or if you're shooting in a crowd, of course, you can get it above your head or what have you. So that's one of the features. And what I like the most about that, though, personally for me, is that you can swivel the screen around so that it's not facing you and then tuck it back up against the camera. So now you have no screen on the back of your camera. So I mean,
no chimping.
Right. Well, you know, and here's the thing, you know, with EVFs, there's no reason to chimp. You know, what you see in your electronic viewfinder is what the finished image is going to look like. So
exactly right. Yeah.
And you know, the EM5 also now, the Mark II has Wi-Fi integrated, like most of the other Olympus cameras are doing as well. So that's kind of a big thing. There have been video improvements. It's not shooting 4K, but it is shooting 1080p at pretty much all the frame rates that everybody around the world needs. I know in the United States it's 30 and 60, but I know 25 is something that I think in Europe is needed or lusted after. I think 25 and 50 maybe.
I'm not a video guy, so I wouldn't really follow that bit. You may well be right for all of that.
But there are,
that's what you get when you get street shooting, guys. You're like,
right. Yeah, exactly.
You know, there are those improvements in video. Yeah.
The video's not good on the Fujis.
But you know, so there's that. You know, there microphone input. You've got some options. Again, you know, catering to the people that do video. If you have one of the battery grips for it, also has a headphone jack, so you can monitor the audio while you're doing video. So again, you know, those are just
a little bit of a bigger grip as well, from what I can see from the two pictures I've seen of the old and the new. The grip's a little bit bigger, yeah.
Yeah, you know, and again, you know, ergonomics have changed a little bit on it. I have the original EM5, and I had the Mark II for a minute. Because it was a pre-release product, I had to send it back.
Right.
But comparing the two, ergonomically, it's definitely a more improved camera in my mind.
So that has gone back, has it, to the supplier?
Yeah, that was a sample.
Come on, Jamie, you can tell us for real. This is no one's listening. Oh, we got 100 viewers now. Sorry, it has gone back, yeah.
Yeah, sadly it
has.
All right,
okay.
I'm pretty bummed out. The unit that I had, it was pre-production firmware, so I was not allowed to share any of the photos that I took with it either. So it's killing me because I've got hundreds of photos that were shot with that camera that I can't share.
And will you be buying it?
I'm part of so I guess maybe we'll talk a little bit about what I do. So I'm part of the Olympus Visionary program.
All right,
and so that's basically, I'm like an ambassador for the brand.
Okay.
And as part of that program, I get access to, you know, equipment when I need it or what have you. You know, so when new things come out, I usually have the product shipped to me, and
Nice one.
Yeah, so I won't buy it. It'll probably be sent to me, so you can expect probably a flood of photos when that comes.
It's like the car dealer that I just bought my new car from. I said,
there you go.
When do you get your car? And he said, every 3 months.
There you are, talking about car dealers.
Those car dealers, we're coming to you in a minute, Mike.
Yep.
They're always the same, aren't they? So, okay, so you haven't got the Mark II just yet, Mike.
I do not. I will be getting it for sure. And I'll tell you some of the things that Jamie talked about, but from a street shooting perspective, that silent shutter is going to be amazing. Olympus's shutter, it's not that it's that loud. It's not a Nikon mirror flapping up and down. But when it's silent, and you guys have that, right?
Yeah,
I mean, don't you already have the Fuji? And I tell you, if there's anything I've been telling Jamie since we've done this, I gotta get that electronic, that silent shutter, just amazing.
Well, as soon as Jamie mentioned it, I was on a walkabout one evening with some guys, and a guy turned up with the Sony A7, and everyone was drooling over it. So look at this, look at this, look at that. So I said, give us what's the shutter sound like? Clunk.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, I've heard videos done on that.
We could hear it as you guys were saying, hear it in the block round the corner. It's ridiculous. So I said, do you want to hear mine? So they said, yeah, okay. So we'll go on then. So I said, I've taken 3 already. It was just totally, it was it's superb to have, unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think they've improved. Well, I know they've improved the image stabilization. And it's got, compared to the EM10, like you were saying, Thomas shoots with now, and that's what I shoot a lot of my street with. That's got the 3-axis. This has the 5-axis and then improved 5-axis. So I'm real excited about that, because if you do shoot from the side, and I know I've shot from the side, I'm sure you shoot from the side too at times. That stabilization, you just can't beat it. I've tried other cameras. I've tried a couple different cameras without stabilization, and I don't know how many photos that are just horrible, from that. But Olympus really has that down. So I think that it's going to be an exciting camera, and then to be in the small package. Not that the EM1 is that big, their flagship model, but having it smaller for street shooting sure is going to be nice too.
Now, just a serious question, because talking about Olympus as a company here, a couple of years ago we had all this furore about the problems of the finances. I don't know whether Jamie's in a position to answer this question, but I'll try. There was a lot said about disappearing monies and monies going around, and there was going to be some difficulty for Olympus. How does this affect the camera part of the bit? I know that Olympus is a huge company. They're very much involved in medical research and medical tools and photography on that front. So how has this affected the Olympus camera business at all with this problem that they experienced a couple of years ago?
I can't really speak to their finances or anything like that. I can say that the medical imaging division is huge, and it is the vast majority of their income. And I've been in the program since 2012 with Olympus, and I honestly have seen no slowing down in development or anything like that. If anything, to be honest with you, it feels like the pace has quickened quite a bit. Every year I attend this, they call it the Visionary Summit. They host it at the Olympus headquarters in Pennsylvania. And they get all the visionaries together, and we sit down with people in the engineering department. They usually have people from Japan fly in from the R&D division and the engineering division. And we sit down and we go over, likes and dislikes about product, what our wish list is and things like that. And excuse me, since 2012, when I've been doing this, we make suggestions, and I usually try to bring back, feedback from the community. I'm pretty adamant about getting everybody's input, through social media or whatever, so that I can take, the public's wants to the roundtable discussions that we have. And I bring those things in, and I see them end up in cameras. So the research monies, it seems like everything's still there. Again, they continue to innovate and develop new products at, again, what I feel like is a faster and faster pace. So I don't.
You're not seeing it. Now, the only reason I've mentioned that is because couple of weeks back, I don't know if you watch All About the Gear with Doug and Frederick Van Johnson. This is a point which Doug made about he's not too sure how Olympus are going to fare over the period of time. And I thought at the time, no, that's pretty old news actually, Doug, because that problem of finance which Olympus had was at least 2 years ago now. And I know they've gone through a major changes. And as you mentioned there, Jamie, their medical side is just enormous. I see them quite a lot with I'm in the exhibition business, and one of our clients is Cook Medical, which is one of the major competitors to Olympus gear that is used in theatres and operating situations. So I'm aware that Olympus have got a massive backup of finances coming from other sources. Probably, when you think about it, bigger than Nikon, because Nikon and radio, all they are is cameras and lenses.
Right.
Canon, as you know, printers and all their sort of stuff that they've got, but Nikon probably is the one which everyone should be looking at and thinking, well, you know, what's the scenario going on in that camp? But we'll talk about that in a minute, because this move that we're seeing with the mirrorless, Mike, perhaps you'd be able to make some comment on this. I've read with great interest that the mirrorless market, although we're seeing all this innovation, which is absolutely fantastic, that we're seeing not only with the Fujis, but the Panasonics and the Olympus and Sony, of course, now. The mirrorless market doesn't appear to be really grabbing the attention of the American user. There's still this preference for the DSLR, effectively. I just wondered what your thoughts were on this. You know, I think this year is going to be the defining year for the mirrorless market, to be honest with you.
And yeah, I agree with you, Paul. As far as just knowing when I do workshops or go out on photo walks with people, obviously that aren't Olympus, you know, only type walks, you'll still get. I think you get a lot of people lusting for that big white lens. Yeah. You know, the Canon. Like, they see it on the sidelines of a football game or a basketball game. They go, "Oh, you've got the best camera in the world." It's got us. What is that? A Canon or a Nikon? And I see that constantly. And I think it just takes a few. I was on a workshop with. I think I was the only mirrorless shooter. Because I still like to take a lot of workshops. I think they're great for creativity, you know, and getting yourself out of the indulgence. But and I remember shooting with actually it was the EM1 when it first came out, and that thing, you know, shooting off the 6, 7, 8 frames a second sounded like a machine gun, and everyone's, you know, chink, 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 you know, they're going with their big camera. They're going, "What the heck are you shooting?" You know, and the shots you can get. I think it just needs convincing. And you know, I was talking about it with someone the other night. We were shooting at things like live composite, and we haven't brought up a lot of specific things, but you know, live composite. I think Olympus should do commercials on live composite. The things you can do with that with what's in that camera. Yeah. You know, a live composite and watch things develop. But that's what it's going to take, is convincing people of that. And I do agree. We're getting closer and closer. If you look at the EM1 and now you look at the lenses we've got coming out, we just got out that 40 to 150 straight through 2.8 aperture. That's as sharp. I'll tell you what. That's, you know, my 70 to 200 Nikon that I lusted for and got after saving thousands of dollars, $2,000-3,000. You know, certainly that thing is all as sharp as that, and I've got extra reach now. So. Yeah. So I think that that is, it just takes convincing, and eventually people, I think, will start to see, oh, the small camera isn't like a small oven and you're a good cook. You know?
I must be honest. It's definitely still tools for the, you know, courses for courses, as we would say, tools for the job. I know there are some sports photographers that are starting to look at mirrorless cameras. I've heard of one guy at the weekend is using the A6000, Sony A6000, for his sports photography, which that really did surprise me. And I know that from a point of view with the Fuji, which is a slightly bigger sensor, it's a 1.5 crop. There's been some images being created at silly sizes, 6 foot by 4 foot, and that sort of size for reproduction purposes, for exhibition. So these mirrorless cameras have this ability, but as you say, I think it's just crossing that line that basically the people have got to realise that they are as good, and from an innovative point of view, they are probably better than what Nikon and you say Nikon, I say Nikon, are throwing out. They're very small incremental improvements, aren't they, of these cameras? You know,
well, I think the big problem what we run into, I know in the States, and I'm sure it's probably that way everywhere else too, is that, you know, when people first get into photography, what do they look for? You know, they look in the magazines and they look on the sidelines, what have you, you know, and what they see there, of course, are the big cameras. So when people first get into photography, they think that they need the big camera because they don't understand that the other camera is as capable. Yeah. And then once they're into it, now they're invested. You know, now they've got a lens system that they've bought into. And I think what we see a lot of now, you know, is, you know, like Mike says, you start attending these workshops, and when people start seeing, hey, you know, this guy has this little camera, he's got a small bag, he's not lugging around all this gear with him, but he's getting shots as good as mine, and he's got, you know, a few tricks in his bag that I don't even have yet. Yeah. And for the people that, you know, can attend those workshops, they tend to have maybe more of a disposable income, you know, or they're more likely to be able to have a second system that they can work their way into. Those are the people I think I see personally transitioning to mirrorless. You know, I know I've introduced a few people to mirrorless that were just getting into photography, and they've never doubted, you know, the ability of their equipment once they, you know, got going.
No, but I think you're right. Once they've made that switch, there's no going back. They can, wow, you know, how haven't I realized this before? Because I used to walk around these cities with my low pro bag on there. I had two Nikon bodies in the back, the 7300, the 35, the 50. I was worried about changing the lenses more times than thinking about what photograph I was going to take, to be honest with you. Yeah. And then basically when I got back, I had a sore back. You know, it was that way. But no, as I said earlier on, I think 2015 is going to be a defining year, because with Sony now moving in such a very strong and positive manner with their A7 cameras, and no doubt their smaller alpha cameras are going to start showing some more detailed improvements as well. And yet the big two, Nikon and Canon, were just making those small incremental changes, apart from obviously this latest one, this 50 megapixel Canon, which has appeared on the scene. And I understand that Sony make that sensor, so we'll see Sony coming out with their 50 megapixel no doubt anytime soon. Let's get back to the get back to the Olympus. In terms of the lenses, you mentioned there's 17 mil, Mike. That of course is 35 mil equivalent.
Yep, pretty close. Yeah, 34. Yep. Yeah, it's always double.
Sorry, yeah, 34. Yeah. Sounds a beautiful lens to work with. Is that your preferred lens walking the streets?
Absolutely, yeah. 1.8 aperture.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I don't think I could. I mean, I've shot 25, primes that are 25 primes and 50, and I've tried to force myself to go out and actually shoot some with our 45. The Olympus 45 millimeters, a very small lens. I run it here behind me, but it just gets too close, and it doesn't get the range when we're doing like our critiques on the Arcanum. You need some environment.
Yeah, exactly.
to show me where we're at. So that is I think that's a fantastic lens, and it seems like whenever I talk to somebody who shoots a 17, it's just their favorite lens for street photography.
Yeah, because Thomas uses. He's got two cameras, and he uses the 17 and the 45, and basically he switches the camera depending on what photograph he wants to take. If it's a street portrait, he'll take the 45. If it's taking the environment, as you say, he'll switch to the 17. How about you, Jamie? What's your preferred lens at the moment for your camera?
Probably the 12 to 40 f2.8.
Okay, right, yeah.
Just because again, I've got a little bit of focal range there. It's a pretty quick aperture at f2.8, and being that I shoot outdoors a lot, it's weather sealed, so that way my whole system is weather sealed as well.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, I've got all the primes, but that's kind of the go-to lens for me, just because it covers a bit of range.
Yeah, for me, I've got the Fuji X100S with a 23 mil on. It's a 1.5 crop, so I'll leave you to work the math out on that one.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then I got the I got the XE1, which was the first Fuji that I bought with the 1855 They call it a kit lens, but no way is it a kit lens. I tell you, it's absolutely fantastic. Toyed with the 27mm for a bit, but then chopped that in and bought the 35-1.4, which is probably the lens on the XE1 all the time. So when I go out, I take those two. But generally, I'm a one camera, one lens user, so I'll decide which one I'm going to use, and I'll go with that. And that I think is a good practice. If you're out street photography, you're stuck then with what you've got, so you make it work. I'll tell you a funny story. I'll tell you a funny story.
That's exactly right, though, Paul.
I'll tell you a funny story.
I totally agree with you on that.
I was talking to a fellow at a camera club, and he had a Nikon D4. Why he had a D4, I do not know, because he never printed anything bigger than an A4 print, maybe a couple of times an A3 print. Anyway, so he was out doing some shooting in London, and I said, "Oh, how did your evening go?" He says, "Oh yeah, it was really great." He said, "I got myself set up," and he said, "I had my 16-85 lens on the camera," and that's what he said. And he said, "I took a couple of shots." He said, "But I was so disappointed." So I said, "Why?" He said, "I wish I'd taken my 10-24 with me." So I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, I just couldn't get everything in." So I said, "Well, why didn't you step back?" And he looked at me as if I was someone off another planet, and I said, I don't understand what you're talking about. It's crazy. So using the one lens, as you say, is a very good education, really, I suppose, the best way to put it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Shall we do some screen share?
Sure.
Go on.
Who's going to be the first one?
Don't you mind, Jamie?
I'll put Jamie up first.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hopefully my screen share is going to work.
All right. So I guess I'll kick it off here, and this will, I guess, show you what I was talking about with variety and what I like to do.
Yeah, exactly. What I'm going to try and do here, share. I'm opening up. There we go. Straight into it. That's great. That's well done. Can you see that?
I'm sharing my
screen.
screen.
Can you see that as a full screen?
Gotcha.
I'll just share from me.
Okay, gotcha. Yep, I can see it.
And that's a full screen for you now, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so what's the best? Shall we go to monoscapes? Let's have a look at monoscapes.
Sure.
I had a quick flick through these today in between work when my boss wasn't around. I thought, oh. He must have thought I was making so many emails because the email panel kept on flicking up in front as he walked past. So this is a nice shot. Tell us about this shot then, Jamie. Is this Michigan?
Yes, it is. So it's funny that this would be the first picture that comes up because in the Olympus circles and the people that know me, everybody knows about what I call my barn. It is actually not my barn. It is just a barn in the countryside in Michigan, but it seems to be a reoccurring theme in my photography. And I just wanted to go out one day because the clouds were looking like nice and fluffy and puffy, and my youngest son wanted to come along with me. So while I was getting cameras out and getting lenses out and tripod, my son walked out and was looking at the barn, and I just turned around and saw him there and decided to shoot him in front of the barn.
Lovely.
And again, same barn in that next shot.
Tell me about the processing here. Is this
I pretty much do all of my black and white is run through Nik Silver Effects Pro 2. Right. Or unless I'm doing something straight out of camera, I've got this way of putting my camera into a custom monotone mode. Yeah. And sometimes I will just, like if I'm out walking in town or whatever, I'll just shoot black and white JPEG straight out of camera and fire them out socially via the Wi-Fi that way. But if it's processed at home in black and white, it's through Nik.
When basically you take a photograph with your Olympus in the mono set, do you have to do much editing to it? I assume you use Lightroom. Did you say you use Lightroom? Yeah. Yeah.
So for this image right here in particular.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would have my camera in monotone mode. So what I'm doing is I'm looking through my EVF and I see a black and white scene, and I know that I know kind of what I'm going for. And when I get home, I processed it, because I shot this in RAW, so I processed it, so I could pull out a little bit of cloud detail. Right. And so I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but yeah, again, this is just all Nik software plugin. So import into Lightroom. I might adjust a few things, crop or what have you, change the lens, because this was shot with an 8mm fisheye.
I was going to say there's a bit of a curve on there, so it's got to be some sort of a fisheye, yeah.
Yep. So I decurved it a little bit, without getting to where my sun was distorted massively, and then shot it over into Nick and used like a red filter to get the blue sky black. And
yeah, lovely, like that. Again with the 8mm, I assume, but
yes.
Look at that cloud structure. That's lovely. I love this barn on the left-hand side. That's super. He loves that barn, doesn't he, Mike?
Yeah.
I've been there with him.
Have you?
Yes, I have. It is an amazing barn, I will tell you.
Nice.
That's actually a different one.
Yeah. Is that a different barn?
Yeah.
But you got this rain coming.
Yeah, bands of rain coming down. I like to chase storms.
Super. Yeah. Let's switch to the colorscapes.
Sure.
Getting a little bit of feedback. I don't know whether you can hear that your end, but
no, not on my side.
There we do. No.
Again, the barn.
I really like that.
So that storm there actually spawned a tornado a couple of counties over after that.
I was going to ask you if you get any sort of weather like that in Michigan.
Yeah.
The tornado. Look at that.
And I suppose you could probably tell by the processing style. I like contrasty. And
I was just going to say a little bit of contrast, a little bit of saturation of color, but
yeah.
Style, so you go for it,
Mm-hmm. And then the next picture that you're on right there. So that picture right there, again, kind of talks about, using Nick software. I like the Viveza plugin for Nick.
Yes.
Because you can do the localized contrast and, structure and all those adjustments. So I do that a lot. I'll do a lot of localized adjustments in landscape photos.
Nice little rainbow there in there.
Yeah.
I think the pot of gold's just about there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fantastic shot. I really like that.
It's one of the few Milky Way photos I've got. It's a lot of light pollution in Michigan.
Yeah, I've got to be honest with you. I've not seen stars like that for many a decade, and I mean that most sincerely. I don't know if you're familiar with a place called Cornwall in the southwest of our country. And I was down there as a kid, and I was about 10 or 11 at the time, and I looked up, and I just couldn't believe how many stars I could see. And I've never seen it since.
Oh no!
Never seen it since, because, as you say, the light pollution in the major cities, we just don't see this.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Thank you.
I like the work on that. That's a great shot. One more, and then we'll switch to Mike's. I love these cloud structures. I like the way you're giving a nice depth of to the shot with this cloud structure. A lot of guys would just crop that square.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
It's funny. I'm one of those people. I tell people that I shoot landscapes in portrait mode.
In portrait mode, exactly.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. Okay, let's switch over to Mike then. We'll have some fun then. We'll have some fun now, Jamie.
I'll tell you what. You know what? Don't go into the gallery. Go back if you can. Can you go back to my main site? Because I just switched this site at the beginning of the year, and that gallery is not going to be updated. I want you to do is jump over to my Flickr account, and that probably yeah. I'll show you as soon as you.
Now you're asking me now, aren't you?
I am. Either that or I can screen share. I've got a few up if you want. Just doing screen share.
Let me just see if I can get it quickly.
Yeah.
Oop.
No, don't even go to Flickr. Just go to my main first page.
Okay. Your
my
homepage.
Homepage for my site. Yeah, and then we can click right over to it from there.
Yeah, I've got a bit. It's gone a bit slow on me all of a sudden. Typical on that. Here we go.
Well, I'll tell you what. I can, if you want, I'll throw on screen share and bring them up.
I'll tell you what. I think it probably would work actually, Mike. If you did, if I come out of screen share.
Let's do that. Yeah, you come out of screen share. I'll come on, and we can talk that way. Let me.
Just bear with me 1 sec when I get back to where we are, and then I've got to come out of screen share. Stop. I think it's because I was going to show you some of my images as well, and I think it's because I've got Lightroom open in the background. I'm a little bit on the slow side.
Right. Now, how about right now? Are you? Do you see that, Jamie?
Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I can tell you a little bit now. Right there. That's shot from another country there, Paul. You'd be happy to know that. That's shot from Windsor, from the Windsor side, looking at Detroit. That's the.
I was going to say you're on Canada side, are you?
Mm-hmm. I am on the Canada side there, shooting out, sitting about 30 feet out on a rock as the waves were lapping up and next to me there. But just a great shot. This is just one of the shots I guess I'm fairly proud of because I've sold it. I sold it very well to one of our larger calendar producers here in Michigan, Pure Michigan.
Well done. Well done.
And it's just a nice shot of the city. And the sun cooperated with me, and we went on. We have a large July 4th. Obviously, fireworks are here, and that was the same night there. The fireworks display.
Lovely. So, can I just ask Jamie just to make sure, Jamie, are you seeing this as a full picture? Are you seeing Mike's shots?
Yeah.
You are. Great. Okay, I wanted to make sure. Carry on, Mike. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem at all. See, here we talk about all the street photography, so I'm showing you landscape, and here another landscape. So that
you're just showing off now.
Yeah, I'm showing off. I am. But just another shot. We've got a beautiful place down in Ohio called Hocking Hills, and just full of waterfalls. But now we get to the real life.
I've seen this one before.
Yes, you have. You probably have.
Yeah.
Probably in the Arcanum, at the tomb of what we call the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in Washington, D.C. Again, this just speaks, not to make an Olympus commercial, but this speaks to Olympus. It was absolutely pouring, just pouring, and these guys, they don't flinch 24 hours a day out there. And when I took that shot, I wasn't even sure I was going to come out because the eye cup in the Olympus was full of water.
Really?
I mean, it was pouring that much. I could tell you it was bad because my wife wouldn't go out there. She goes, "Go ahead, you're an idiot. You do it." To stand out there. Yeah. But I'm really happy with that. And again, here's myself working. I'm trying to work towards Thomas. Thomas Luther's style here of just getting people staring, right at me and getting them at the right time. And this is in the city of Detroit. On our what we call the people mover. We hardly have any. You would think the city that put America or even the world on wheels at times would have better transportation. We do not. But this is one of the fun ones there. Here's another.
I love that. I don't know whether it froze up on the recording. But, my screen froze for a bit. But on that particular, don't worry. But on that previous image you showed, I just love the eye contact you got with that fella in the underground or the train there. That's absolutely great. Absolutely great.
Yeah, he wasn't. Let's see. I'm going to go past that a little bit. I'm going to show something that I did when I was actually on Valerie's thing in Chicago.
Right.
And you probably saw this too in the.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
We've got in Chicago here. There's just this huge thing. It's called the the bean.
The bean, yes. Trey Ratcliffe photograph on the website today. In Dusseldorf. Well, he's just come in to London from Dusseldorf. He's doing a walkabout on Saturday. Can you believe?
Really?
Valentine's Day. So there we go. And someone said, "That's the bean," and he went, "No, he's taken in Dusseldorf." So, and he said the bean in Chicago. So as soon as they come up. Great shot. Yeah,
this is a fun guy there. But here I'll give you some insight to some of the urban exploration in Detroit. An old theater that was once a beautiful theater for movies, but turned into a rock and roll theater as well. It's called the Easttown Theater, and some of the largest acts around. The Rolling Stones played there. The Who's played there.
Really?
Zeppelin. Oh yeah, this was the place.
Right.
And unfortunately, even now, it's been 2 years, I think, since they've taken that picture, and it's almost totally just destroyed.
That's a shame.
And I'll go one more.
It leads to good photography, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, it definitely leads to good photography.
Yeah, exactly right, yeah.
We're going to go one more, and this is just 2 nights ago, taken in Philadelphia. I was out traveling.
Saw this on Google Plus today. Great.
Really happy with this. Again, this is live composite, and I'm telling you, I think I'm going to make the first commercial for it. I can't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
I end up shooting more live composites than I did street that night. But I had no idea. Again, when you're looking at the frames, I knew I was going to get star trails because it was an extremely clear night, and a big city, you just normally would not would be able to see that. But I can tell you that I think the extreme cold and no clouds, and we actually were able to see stars above the city, and you've got a big swooping a plane that came through, and it's a hospital. Back in the corner, all these circles here, actually helicopters flying in and out of hospitals.
No way.
Yeah, and it's not going. When I first saw it, I thought it was going around that front building. It's actually between two buildings.
Yeah.
This kind of stuff. 25-minute exposure, where it took a shot every 0.8 seconds, and then it puts it all together, and that's what you get.
That's with the Olympus 17mm lens or something?
Actually, this one was the lens that Jamie's talking about, the 12 to 40.
12 to 40.
But if I'm out shooting stuff like this, I'm probably going 12 to 40, maybe the 12mm prime, but this one I like the 12 to 40.
Yeah.
And what's great is it comes out as a RAW file as well.
So I just want to talk about this actually, just very briefly, because I can do the same setup in my Fuji, but I just go RAW with JPEG. So the JPEG comes out in the mono state, and then the raw file obviously is the colored version, which I can obviously edit from there. Same on the Olympus, yeah.
Yes, it is. In fact, I at least through my workshops that I do, I try to get everybody to do that, and I love doing that as well.
Yeah.
Because like Jamie, we've got special settings for the monotone.
Yeah.
To get a sharp shot that way. But all right, so we want to
nice
go back
selection there.
Stop. Screen sharing. Okay, I should be back.
Should be back. I'm just gonna. You are back.
Okay.
Everything is still working, and that's
Good.
probably what in actual fact happened, because I was gonna share just a few of my images, which I haven't done before, but I've got to try and get rid of the Safari, which is proving a bit of difficulty at the moment. So we go to Google Hangout, share. So some of these, Mike, you might have seen when I did my. This is my final level before I've gone on to Sphere 2 now.
Yeah.
I'm in the lounge waiting for selection. So this was taken in a photographer's gallery in London. The images being shown on the screen to the left here was a photographer by the name of Vivian Sassen, and her images were basically rotating round on the wall. This fella turns up and starts taking photographs of himself in the silhouette mode with his BlackBerry, which which made me laugh at the time. Anyway, I got talking to this. There's the story here. I got talking to this fella whose friend was a printer for David Bailey.
Oh wow!
And well, we just had a great time just chatting away. And as it turned out, she originally didn't want to do the work for David Bailey. She said, I don't know. She said to her boss, she said, I don't know the photographer. I don't know what his work is, so I don't think I could do it justice. And amazingly, David Bailey gave her another opportunity, and she did the prints for the exhibition, which were the birth of his son, which was about 3 or 4 years ago. So that was that. I took this one just off Oxford Street. I just love the green trainers. It caught my eye. And then you start looking at picking up greens. There's another pair of green trainers and a green handbag and stuff like that. So I got down really low. He didn't even know I was there. This is another one back at that photographer's gallery. And I call this one The Avengers.
Yep, that's what it is. I see. What's her name?
A bowler hat?
Yeah, the guy with the bowler hat, but he's got a plastic bag tucked behind his bag because he doesn't want to look like... Which made me laugh at the time.
Yeah.
I called this one Caged Shoppers. Now they're walking through an underpass. And these two had an argument about something. I don't know what it was. I was just catching them crossing the street. And the old guy's giving the young fella a little bit of a nasty look. So that was a bit of fun. This one I called Puddle Duck. Took this in Carnaby Street, pouring with rain, and just got the reflections off the pavements there with these red trainers just walked in. So happened she had red laces, and I was photographing the red and the blues.
Now, where is that for us that?
Carnaby Street. Carnaby Street is just around the back of Soho. Okay. If you're in London, from Leicester Square, you walk through Chinatown, and then keep going in that same direction, which is, I can't remember, it's slightly north, I think, if I'm correct. And then you come across Carnaby Street, which was very famous in the 60s. The Beatles and the Who and the Mods and the Rockers down Carnaby Street with all their gear. So, but this particular evening it had been pouring with rain, and I got these lovely reflections. This guy was just standing still at Leicester Square, and I was rather keen to catch his static movement with everyone else moving around. But this fellow walked up dead centre of the screen there, and called someone, was describing what he was seeing. It was just made me laugh. Cool. I took quite a few shots of this guy actually. But, tried it in mono.
They're hard to get at times, but that's funny. Where he's trying to stand still.
Yeah, well, he's posing because he's got his little his suitcase down there. He's collecting money. The guy with the bald head is posing, but the guy with the phone is calling his girlfriend or something and saying, "I'm standing next to the guy. He hasn't moved in 2 minutes." Amazing. Just one on Leicester Square coming out the underground. And you can see the lens flare there is basically a raindrop on the right hand side.
That's great.
Yeah, I like that.
This is the National Gallery at Trafalgar Square, and Trafalgar Square, rainy night, nothing going on. Then all of a sudden these guys came running past and walking past. So I positioned myself and just took that as a backdrop.
Yeah, that's. I do like that. That is very, very similar to where I was in Philadelphia, the art museum.
Yeah.
Amazingly similar, actually. Shot that I got. So that's neat. I like the people in it, though.
Yeah. 6400 ISO, this one.
Wow.
And this was the one which Valerie thought I should have put in rather than that previous image.
Yeah, I like that.
The cohort members.
Yeah.
And the other one was the better one, but Valerie said this should have been the image that I put in the final set. I call this one. He forgot to turn the lights out.
And he's going home, right?
Yeah, and he's going home, exactly. Just that's Trafalgar Square, so it's about a 100-metre walk to Charing Cross, London Charing Cross station to go home. And this one was just probably one of the last shots I made of the evening, which was these two silhouettes. I think these two had an argument, and she was walking away from him, and of course women on the verge, it just sort of slotted into place, but it wasn't staged. It just so happened that way. And this one, which didn't get in the final selection, was deliberately out of focus as she walked past me, and she deliberately tipped her hat down so that I couldn't get her eyes. But I call this class on Oxford Street.
Yeah.
So
I do like that one though.
Yeah, it's street photography doesn't have to be in focus, as you know. And there's a book which I've just got actually. I'll email it to you. It's about I think the title is "Photography Doesn't Have to Be in Focus" or something like that, which is an interesting title for a book. When we all want the crisp image, don't we? We all want it crisp. So let's talk about your show, Mirrorless Minutes. How did this come about?
Well,
let me start that one.
So it's funny. I started doing some YouTube videos myself that were just kind of instructional things or informative that were all about Olympus, and I was looking for a title for it, because I was trying to do these short videos. And because, obviously they're mirrorless cameras, I called them Mirrorless Minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I got out of doing those, and I started meeting, a bunch of people, and I met Mike, and it just, one day it just kind of clicked in my head, I want to put together a group of people that are all, initially it was, I wanted to have all camera systems in there, as long as they were mirrorless.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, man, I'd already have the domain name, Mirrorless Minutes, So I ended up deciding to do a website, which is mirrorlessminutes.com. And but before that, I wanted to do what you're doing. I wanted a way to have an outlet, to talk about mirrorless cameras. So I asked Mike, via Facebook, I think one day, I said, hey, do you want to do a show?
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, sure. What's it going to be? And I told him, I said, well, it'll be Mirrorless Minutes. We'll just talk about, mirrorless cameras. And initially, for the longest time, it was pretty much just Olympus based, But, I told him from the outset, too, though, that I want to bring other people on. If I'm going to call it Mirrorless Minutes, well, then we're going to stick to that. It's going to be any mirrorless system. So, our first guest on, he's a Fuji shooter, And we've had other shooters on as well that, use different systems. But that's basically it, It was just an outlet for mirrorless users. I'm tired of the big DSLR hype. People need to know more about mirrorless cameras, and I'm trying to just give them a place to go to learn more about it.
No, I think you're right. People do need to know more about the capabilities, the innovation which these mirrorless cameras are giving us now. So you basically, did you know each other before you were talking on Facebook, or did you just meet on Facebook?
That's a good story. Yeah, that's a funny one. Let me take that one.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you a funny story. Jamie's little videos, they were like 3-minute videos or something, weren't they?
Yeah, they were pretty short.
Them?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty short, and I remember just bopping around because, of course, I've got that EM5, and I was just trying to digest anything I could to find information about mirrorless, and so this was a while. Obviously, this happened to be probably towards the end of 2013, I guess, or so, maybe beginning of 2014. But I found all of Jamie's stuff, and I started looking up, and this guy lives right in Michigan. What the heck? And we're not that close. I mean, we're about an hour and maybe hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes away. You can tell from where he lives and what he sees. If I saw any cows like that on my way to work, there'd be real problems. But in any case, we just started talking. In fact, I think we started putting the entire show together and actually never even physically met. We put the whole show together through Google Hangouts and stuff, and I think our first time we met was October at a photo walk.
Yeah. And we had done, several shows together.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just funny. I mean, and I think the sharp thing is it's not a super large by 100 each week growing, but it's a small bit, and it's very big groundswell, we'll call it, of people coming on and joining, and I think as we increase it to other mirrorless cameras, it's even going to be more. Because there's a huge amount of people out there that want to, if they don't have them, they want to know about them.
Exactly right. I think this is exactly what I feel about it as well. You've just got to, as Martin said, you just got to keep going and keep pounding away, and your numbers will increase. The guests that I've had, I've just been so grateful for all the guests that have joined me on my show, and the biggest turnout and biggest viewing that I've had was with Michael Kenner, and I've had 2,500 people view that particular show. And basically, I think as you just keep going and you keep advertising and you keep publishing what you're doing, whether it's Google Plus or Facebook or tweeting it, that's when the word will get out. One question I wanted to ask you though: do you actually podcast it?
Yes, it is.
It is on podcast as well.
Yeah, and you can get it in the iTunes store.
I don't actually do that just yet. And Valerie, Mike, has been saying to me right from word go, you've got to get it on podcast.
We need to do? Here's what we need to do. We need to put Terry McKay. We'll have to bring up Terry's name in here. Terry McKay is our guy behind the scenes who's put together that website, and he has put together the whole. I know Jamie and I, bantered around to how the heck we put that thing on, and Terry came around and just put it together and did it.
Right.
Which is great, because after every show, I got to tell you, he's the one putting it on. I wouldn't even. I don't even know how to start to do it.
Do you, in actual fact, do you do like I do here, live and uncut, or do you basically edit and add bits and bobs in front of it, and afterwards just bang it goes out?
Just like this, there's no pre-roll, there's no credits at the end.
Yeah.
And like Mike was, saying, our guy Terry McKay, he's our webmaster, and he's the guy that handles, pulling the audio and getting it over to iTunes so that it becomes available as a podcast.
Yeah, this is something which I've been planning to get organised, but start of the year's been a bit relatively busy for me, so I must get it organised. Have you realised your figures have improved since you've been on iTunes, or is it just steadily building?
I haven't followed the metrics on that yet. I know since we've brought on a lot of contributors to the website, so getting away from the Google Hangouts and podcast a little bit, our website traffic has grown exponentially since we've brought on a big assortment of Fuji users, and now I think we've got 1 or 2 people that are Sony shooters that are going to be joining. And I can tell you this much: once you start expanding your contributor base to cover more than just one system, things just really ramped up. We've got a great friend who's helping with that, Tammy Lee Bradley. She is a former member of the Olympus Visionary program. She was part of the Samsung Image Logger program, and she's kind of been, I'll just call her our, she's going to laugh at me for this, I'll call her our social media maven. She's kind of taken over and grown our Twitter following, I think, 5-fold in 2 weeks.
That's lovely.
And and again, she's been helping out with bringing on the Fuji users as well. And the site is it's kind of exploding right now. So but the podcast itself, it's not growing as fast as the website yet.
Yeah, this is the important part. I must get on as a guest to someone. Do you know who I really want to interview on my show? Gary Vaynerchuk.
Oh, wow.
The New York Jets hopeful owner. I really want to get him on the show somehow. So I'm going to send him an email and talk about this social media opportunities and how we go about it. But that's one guy I'd really like to interview sometime. But anyway, we'll wait and see on that front. But it's very important, isn't it? We've got so many outlets, so many blogging opportunities, all those different options, WordPress, Blogspot, Medium, Hello as well now, which is very, very popular. Thomas Hawk pushing that one very, very a lot, in actual fact. And the beautiful images you get on that because of the spread that they got on the page. So there's so many opportunities. But
so how do you manage this? How do you keep up with all the outlets? Because I know personally, for me, I'm managing 2 Twitter accounts, a couple of Facebook pages, a website, a podcast. It's overwhelming. So how are you handling it?
How am I handling it? Well, basically, I'm not doing enough. Let's be perfectly frank. I'm not doing enough tweet, and I'm not doing enough Twitter. I'm not doing enough Facebook in terms of photography live and uncut. With regards to my posts on blogging, I use IFTTT. If that, then this.
Yep.
And basically, what I do is I create the blog on my website, which is through Squarespace. I then copy that into Tumblr, and Tumblr then sends out to all the different blogs that I've created.
Yeah.
It also will post to Facebook, and it will also do a quick little Twitter post as well. But it's the Twitter and the Facebook which I've really got to get hold of. I've only just got into Facebook just recently. I've been more of a Google Plus user, to be honest with you, at the outset. I just love Google Plus. Facebook, though, I think there's a definitive difference between the two.
Oh, sure.
Google Plus, I think, is like, as I would say, Coles to Newcastle. If you've got your photographs, everyone wants to see your photographs. But if you want to develop a business, you've got to have an active Facebook page and an active Facebook interest, and I think that's something which I want to develop. It's generally, I haven't got anyone in the background helping me out, so that's how I use it. I use if this then that to basically post out to all the different networks that I've lined up with for the moment. But one thing that I do want to get organised is start getting the program onto iTunes. Because everyone. Because the show is well, you do a 30-minute show. My show generally, we just clicked over the hour now. My show is generally around about 50 minutes to an hour and 20. And a lot of people won't sit in front of a computer or iPad or iPhone and watch this program. A lot of people have said they'd like to prefer to listen to it.
Sure.
So that's fine. So it's something which I've got to get organised, and I must get down and do that quick, I think, because I think I'm missing out on an opportunity. We come to that part of the show, gentlemen, where we discussed it before. You've chosen the easy option. You're not going to do my 5 photographer one-word associations. You're going to tell me who your favourite photographer is and why. And there may be a possibility of a short conversation developing from that. So, Jamie, you're up first. Who's your favourite photographer at this moment?
Well, and it's not just at this moment. He's just one of those people that I've always enjoyed what he does, and that's Trey Ratcliffe. Right. And I know that he's one of those, I guess I consider him kind of maybe like a controversial photographer, because there are a lot of purists that would look at his style of photography and turn their nose up and, oh, I can't stand what he does, whatever. But for me, it's a lot more than just necessarily his processing style. It's the way he conveys, his world travels through vivid imagery, So he's kind of always been an inspiration for me, but not just in photography, though, but, he's kind of the guy who has influenced me in how I manage social media and becoming really active and sharing everything that I do. I'm a very strong proponent of sharing everything I do, whether it's a technique, whether it is an opinion on equipment or advice, what have you. I don't watermark my images. It's kind of one of those things that, I got from him and Thomas Hawk. So Trey Ratcliffe is just kind of, just somebody that I've looked up to actually for a while now in photography.
I think you make a very good point there about Trey Ratcliffe. I like his work as well. There are some people I know that will basically look at it and go, nah, it's not for me. But then they don't realise and appreciate the amount of work that he's actually put into an image.
Right.
They are creations. And Karen Hutton is also a sort of photographer that's very similar in the sense that when I spoke to her, she takes a photograph and then she creates what she wants to see. Mm-hmm. And it's the build-up and the process and the development of the image, and I think you make a good point. And let's be honest, how many followers has he got? We're talking about over 8 million people worldwide, and if you've got that many followers, they can't be all bad, can it? Let's be honest. But,
exactly.
No, he's and obviously me and Mike being part of the Arcanum as well, the vision to start that off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been some discrepancies in how we're sort of going to develop in Sphere 2. That'll all find out as we go along. But generally, to have the vision to start something of this nature is really it's awesome. It's used a lot, the word, in the Arcanum, but it is awesome. The friends you meet. I would never have met Mike from Chicago. Mike would never have heard of Paul Griffiths in Bromley, Kent. And it's just amazing, as we say, when we look at that map. And you got to take your hat off to Trey. He's come up with some very, very good ideas, and his photography is top notch as well. I agree with you 100% there. He's not my favorite though, but he's a good photographer. Yeah. How about you, Mike? Who's your favorite photographer?
Let's see. I'm gonna tell you more of who my favorite photographer is right now. We're gonna, who I seem to be gravitating. Really would like to try to get their ability in the streets to travel that lightly and to be that free. And that's Robert Gilden. You've seen Robert's work with the flash and stuff.
Yeah.
He's crazy. He's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Either him or the other Serbian photographer named Boogie, those two guys in the streets of New York, real good. They show the grit style of New York, I think, which is an amazing thing to bring out in the people. And I don't see myself walking around with a flash, but I do like the ability of how they can walk so freely and get right up in people's faces and get those pictures and move on. And I'm excited to be able to someday maybe be able to do that. That's a challenge. I don't care how many years you do it. That's a challenge.
It is indeed. It's Bruce Gilden, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah.
I did the same. I did the same with Eric Kim, and I called him Eric Chan, and I got I got so many emails on that. So this Bruce Gilden.
Yeah. So well,
the thing about interestingly enough, I just bought one of those small photo file books of Bruce Gilden's work, and I was reading all about his style of photography, how he got started. He's a Magnum photographer, and he had no real interest in. Yes, he had an appreciation of Henri Cartier-Bresson, but he had no real interest in those other photographers. There were others which he sort of had a tendency to follow. And the funniest video I've seen of him in New York, where he's just getting ready to go out and do some photography. He's got his flash out, he's got his Leica, he's just getting ready, and this guy walks past him and knocks him, and he jerks his shoulder, and he said to the cameraman, he said, "Did you see that?" And he goes running after this guy. He said, running after this guy, catches up with this guy at the corner of the street, taps him on the shoulder, and he said, "Hey, the next time you do that, apologize." I thought that could only happen in New York, you know.
Yeah, I think it is. Did you happen to see him wear Google Glass?
No,
have you seen this video of him?
Is there a video? Oh, I must watch that one.
They put him with a pair of Google Glass, and he was just holding them going around. It was hilarious. He goes, "What the heck?"
I've seen him do some critiques of some people's work, and I'm thinking,
yeah. I mean, there's an edge to it. There's an edge to it, but I would say, you know, I really seem to be appreciating that right now, and looking at a lot at that. I really get into how he works.
And now Thomas Loutard, who basically, as I was talking to last week, very, very similar style when he does this straight in your face photography, and he says, "I want a reaction. I don't want a posed image. I want a reaction." Now Gilden's just slightly different, because he will, if he gets someone to stay, he will take a portrait, as we say it. But a lot of the time it is that moment in time, as they say.
Yeah.
It's a good choice, actually. Someone that I'm getting into as well, actually. Bruce Gilden. Yeah, very good. Jamie, who's the person who's inspired you the most? This doesn't have to be a photographer.
It's actually going to be two. It's my children. Right. You know, it's funny because if you stop and think about how the world looks to kids, everything is awe-inspiring and interesting and incredible, you know, when you're a little kid. So that's kind of my approach when I head out driving into the countryside to shoot things. I just try to remember what it was like to be a little kid, and when you peeked up out of the window of the car as you're driving down the road and thought, "Oh wow, look at that," you know. And that's just kind of how I like to take my approach. I just like everything to be fresh and new and interesting again, you know. As we get older, we close our eyes to the world around us, and we just do our daily thing. We just go to work, you know. We sit down in the office, and we get back out, you know. We get gas in the car, what have you. But for me, it's all about just kind of seeing the world how my kids probably see it. So I make things that, in my mind, are what they have in their imagination. And I know you spoke of a photographer earlier that she kind of starts off with an image as a canvas, and again, going back to my art background, that's kind of how I view my work. You know, everything that I shoot is the canvas, and then I build from that to create what I think is the experience that maybe my kids would have had if they saw that scene. So it's my kids, you know, my kids are my inspiration.
That's lovely, Jamie. That's lovely to recognize their interests. And you're right, you know, we just, as we get older, so that's happened, fine, when we walk on. But as photographers, though, I think we're different in the sense that we do start to start to take notice of things, especially. I know I'm talking street here, but to be honest with you, I think when you see things happening on the street, you certainly become more of noticeable and aware of behaviour and what's going on the street.
We're the best observers in the world.
Yeah, we are. Very true. Mike, I think I know who you're going to say for your your inspiration. Surprise me.
Yeah, my uncle, I would say.
Yeah, your uncle.
I mean, it started the love, but it, you know, obviously goes away for years and years, and bringing it back, it's an amazing thing to have, and then, you know, then taking it from there. You know, it's certainly inspirational wise to it's a new day and age. Like you talk about Trey Ratcliffe, it's an inspiration just from his social media.
Yeah,
that's something I would love to be, because I was happy, lucky enough to go on a photo walk in Austin, Texas with Trey, and I mean, I think it started off with 20 people. We might have had 200 by the end trying to walk through the streets of Austin, Texas. So that gets out there, and so there's an inspiration from that social media side. But photography and creativity is that. Yeah, for sure.
I thought that's what you were going to say, and I don't blame you for saying it. It's lovely. I think it's nice when we consider family members as our inspiration rather than another photographer or a teacher that we have experienced in the past. You mentioned about 200 people following Trey the last time. Well, some guys were saying to me a couple of days ago, what's going on? Or Trey's in town, so where we meeting and everything. And I'm not going to be able to be there, unfortunately. And I just said, you better get there early, because I think you're going to have in excess of 150 people following around London. Do you know what he wants to do? I've just spotted in the background there, Jamie. You got a quadcopter there, haven't you?
Oh, yes, yeah. I saw that video of him.
Trey Ratcliffe, exactly. He got arrested in China, I understand.
Oh, yes, yeah.
But the thing is, he's been asking on Google Plus today. He needs some help. He needs one person who's a pilot who's got the clearance to fly a quadcopter in London. And
yeah, he's got the new DJI Inspire 1.
That's one, yeah, which apparently is going to give away. Amazing. Anyway, but then the other one was, he said he wants another guy who's strong enough to carry the quadcopter around for him. I thought it was brilliant. So anyway, and then he wants to go into a theatre. That's right, and see the latest. There's a play in London. I think it's called Mormon Live or something. I forget what it's called now. So I just put a message on there. I said, I think I'll get away with flying the quadcopter around London, just maybe, but definitely not in a theatre. You won't be able to. So anyway, he's going to have some fun, but unfortunately I won't be able to meet up with him. It was my intention to do so, and next time, maybe. Next time.
Yeah.
Guys, it's been great talking to you. Mirrorless Minutes meets Live and Uncut. We didn't have a Mirrorless Wars. We can't do that because the innovation of these cameras is absolutely superb. It's great hearing your view, and thanks for your views on the new EM5 Mark II. Sounds a great camera.
Yeah,
I'm going to check it out, but I can't see myself switching because I'm invested in the Fuji now. So
exactly.
That's the way it goes, isn't it? But no, it's been great to have you on my show. It's just nearly 12:30. I really should be getting to bed.
Yeah, you should be getting to bed.
Exactly. So anyway, thanks for everyone who's watched the show, and if you're going to watch it later on YouTube, please do, because we've had some fun tonight, which is what we intended to do, which is great fun. Finally, just to say, if you're going out shooting, out with your camera, leave your camera bag at home. All the best, you guys. Bye for now.
See you. Thank you.
Cheers.